everybody. Welcome to the Sacred Femme Alchemy Podcast, a podcast to help you on your sacred feminine journey towards self-love and healing. I'm your host, Lisa Mae Francisco, a sacred feminine guide and mentor. In the podcast, we'll dive deep on how to heal your core wounds, reclaim your feminine power, and liberate your truth so you can be your wild, authentic self. Thanks so much for listening. I'm super excited that you're here. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Sacred Femme Alchemy Podcast. I'm super stoked that you're here. I'm really excited to record this episode. And I have reached a full year into entrepreneurship. And so one of the best episodes, or like the best podcast episodes that I really love are when people just do a deep dive and reflection on the lessons that they have learned from the past year, or just sharing any reflections and insights. And so I knew that once I hit that milestone of being 1 year into my business, that I wanted to commemorate by sharing all the lessons that I learned in the past year of being an entrepreneur. And it's something that I'm so passionate about because a lot of people will actually come and talk to me and tell me, how did you do it? What was it like for you? What did you do to prepare? And by the way, I actually do have an episode sharing how I was spiritually, financially, mentally able to quit my 9 to 5 and move into this business, because I see a lot of people waking up and starting to question, like, why am I in the job that I'm in? I don't want to subscribe to this paradigm. I want to do something else and all of that stuff. And so I figured, let me just share my experience here. This is my own experience. This is not business advice. You can take it or leave it. And I have here basically just talking points of the things that I want to hit so I don't forget anything throughout the year. I've celebrated my wins, including some not so great wins. And I just wanted to share my perspective on different things. And so basically this episode is just going to be a retelling of the things that happened in the last year. And I have all these different topics, and I actually have my notes section in front of me. And then I just realized one of the things that I want to talk about is Kundalini Kriyas. So, okay, I'm going to jump right into it and just go from there. And this is in no particular order. It's just things that I've listed out of topics that I want to hit. And so the first thing is podcasting that I have on here. I literally have my notes that say biz lessons, podcasting. And for me, podcasting was this thing that I always knew that I wanted to do, but just was so afraid to do. And I think a lot of people who are in this position where they have this semblance of what they want to do or what their quote unquote dharma is, or feel like what their purpose is, but there's just something that is holding them back. There's resistance, and there's a lot of limiting beliefs and fears that they have to work through. And that's what actually kept me in my job for a really long time before I made the leap. And through EMDR, through doing EFT sessions on myself, with working with my therapist, working with a business coach, a money coach, because a lot of the reasoning of why I couldn't actually take the leap and jump was because I was afraid that I wasn't going to make as much money as my full-time job. And newsflash, and this is my experience, anyone can tell you all these different things, or don't subscribe to this belief system. You don't make as much money the first 3 years. Like, let's be real. People who are putting posts on there saying, oh, this is the revenue, like, what's the actual profit? Profit meaning revenue minus expenses. And I will get into that later on. But podcasting was something that I wanted to do. And I had a lot of resistance around doing it because I had these thoughts and belief systems of, oh my gosh, no one's going to want to hear what I have to say. Or I have this desire to express what's on my mind, but I'm worried how it's going to be perceived. Or, especially now since we're in cancel culture or digging up dirt. I mean, look at the recent Jay Shetty. I know a lot of people don't like other coaches as well because people are towing the lines between power, money, it gets to their head, there's ego involved, they start to lie about what they do, all that stuff. And you get canceled. You can get canceled for so many different things. There's a lot of sensitivity around so many different topics. And if someone doesn't like it, they will put you on blast, especially on TikTok. I've seen people basically have really high careers and all of a sudden it just falls, right? It just falls. And their livelihood goes with it too. And so, the fear of cancel culture, the fear of saying something that'll piss someone off, the sensitivity around that. And so I think for me, it was, well, I don't want to share something. And one, no one's going to pay attention to it. No one's going to like it. And two, be canceled for fear of what I'm actually sharing, which is my truth. And the thing that I realize is that when you put what other people think before what you actually want to do and what your heart is in, like when I think about it, what is the real reason why I got into podcasting is because I want to be able to share my truth. That's it. It's like, I don't need other people to, like, sure, it's nice, right? Sure, it's nice for business to get people to want to listen, to find me for visibility and all that stuff, to understand I know what I'm doing and how I can help them. But at the end of the day, I am someone who is creative. I'm a very creative person. I consider myself an artist, and I haven't said that in a really long time. So it feels really good to align to that identity of I am here to really share my passion and love for what I do in a way that's meaningful and sharing these reflections, because self-expression is something that I value so much. I'm a writer. I do content every day, not just for my business, but I also feeds my soul of being able to express myself and what's in my heart and what's my truth. And so when you go in the line of podcasting and your motivation for your why, and when I work with clients, I often think about, especially ones that we're working on, how do they align to their dharma, what it is that they want to pursue. I often have them revert back to their why, because you can get bogged down in the business of actually doing things and be inundated with all of these things that you have to do. And you can't lose sight of your why. You lose sight of your why, you forget why you're doing it. You want to throw in the towel. And trust me, on the journey of entrepreneurship, there are many times when you want to fucking throw away the towel. And you're like, maybe I should just go back to a full-time job. And there will be many moments like that. And so when I started to really think, okay, well, I don't know what I don't know. And if I don't know something, I like to hire someone, right? I'm not going to try and like white knuckle it and figure it out myself and prolong the time for me of learning how to do something. And so I ended up joining a podcast program. Shout out to Chelsea Rife, her program, Mic Drop. It was a live cohort. Now she has it as a self-paced program. And it helped me so much. It got down to brass tacks of how to even start a podcast. Where do you actually upload it? And so if you really want to understand the logistics, or if you really want to understand how to do something you don't know how, look up people who are creating programs about it, or work with a coach that is actually showing you how to do it, or look up YouTube videos, or go on Coursera. There are so many different ways for you to be scrappy, for you to not find out, or for you to know how to do something. And so for me, that was like one of the things that was easy to fix. It was like, okay, podcasting, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to upload it. Like, what kind of tech do I need? Mics, speakers, microphones, like all of those things. Where do people record? And that program literally helped me with everything from A to Z, even how to create, what is it called? Like Canva graphics for it, and what to put. And everything. Like, when you're new to entrepreneurship, everything is just a muscle that you are learning to strengthen. And so a lot of the times it's going to feel awkward, but you have to learn, okay, it's going to feel awkward, but I have to get comfortable with not knowing how to do anything. And so it was interesting because one of the cards that I pulled almost 2 years ago was the Fool. And the Fool in tarot is the number is 0, meaning there's this fool. He's like on a mountain. He has a bag and he has his white dog, and he just looks happy as a clam because he's not jaded by any of the limiting beliefs yet. He's so positive. He thinks he can handle anything. And it's almost like you have to have this ingenuity about you, this archetype of being humble to new beginnings and being able to take it in and soak it in as if you are a beginner. And so that is one of the top archetypes that I suggest embodying as you go on this route, especially just if you're like curious, you're like, oh, okay, I want to get into business and and work for myself and all that stuff. And so, really that's going to happen a lot. And so you really have to be open and mindful of who out there can actually teach you these different things and which programs resonate, which teachers resonate with you. And that's only something that you will know if you are in tune with yourself. And so, one, it was like the action logistics of podcasting. And two, it was like really looking at my limiting beliefs. Again, I mentioned, it was about no one's going to want to listen to me, cancel culture, all of that stuff. And then really coming back to my why. And before, I used to script everything. Then I got into just bullet points. And then I got into being able to just freely speak about it. And, a lot of people always say to me, you have so much conviction when you speak. And like, you don't get confident. It's like, you can't wait for the confidence to come and then do something. You get confidence by doing something more and more. You get confidence by practicing. And so that goes for podcasting, that goes for sharing your voice. And over time, you start to believe, okay, I do have something worthy of sharing. And so that's the action. And, today I actually did an Instagram Live. You can go back on my Instagram feed where I talked about this idea of the integral components of having spiritual foundation. Number one is self-awareness, right? Are you aware of how your body's reacting to things? Are you aware consciously of when you're triggered about something? And then creating awareness around where the wounding comes from and why you're triggered. And then once you figure that out, then what's the action behind that? And the action can be, you doing a program, you doing research to do a program, or, you doing research to find a new job, or you leaving your partner if you're not in a happy relationship, or you asking for asking the universe for signs on what to do and then being open to it. And so once you have the self-awareness, then comes the action from it. And, with podcasting, it's really about the confidence and learning to believe that you have something to say in the worthiness. And worthiness, that component will come up all the time in your entrepreneurship journey. I mean, entrepreneurship is about, if you want a real kick in the ass personal development type of journey, this is definitely for you. And I've spoken to my mom about it because she always asks me, like, why don't you just go back to a corporate job? Why are you doing this? And that's one of the things that you're going to have to get used to, is that you're not going to have a lot of supporters. And so you really have to get comfortable with believing in something that many people will quote unquote think you're delulu about. And so you have to have so much faith. It's like an actor going on all of these auditions, but not getting one, but believing that you're a good enough actor and you will get your break. And so being very consistent despite not seeing the results, and just showing up anyway and having faith and putting in the work. And make it sound so easy, but it is not. I mean, trust me, there are days where I'm just like, oh my God, I can't do this. And I'm actually going to turn off my emails because I forgot to do that. Okay. Anyways, so the next thing after podcasting, I'm going to talk about Kundalini Kriyas. And I am recently getting certified in Kundalini Yoga. I absolutely love it. I talked about it before of how I've done all these different Kriyas. They've helped me so much. And Kriyas are a set of asanas that are strung together, specific asanas that you do in order to create a manifestation in your life. And when I really started diving into Kundalini Yoga was in 2023 of January. And one of the Kriyas that I did consistently for a sadhana, which is basically a daily practice, and I did it for 40 days, every day, was this one about breaking your limiting beliefs, feeling like you have the courage. I don't remember the actual name, but feeling like you have the courage to do something, like removing anything that's blocking you. And on the 40th day of my sadhana practice, it was the last day of my job. And I didn't plan it that way. All I knew is that I wanted to quit, but I didn't have the emotional strength to do it yet. I was very tied into financial insecurity about leaving and not knowing what to do, even though I had saved enough that I was comfortable with, but I just could not leave. The anxiety The fears were much bigger than my belief in myself and my belief in source, in the goddess and Shakti. And I was just so wrapped up in my rabbit hole. And so I just did not do it. And so I said, you know what? I have the awareness of, I understand what's going on with me. I'm doing EFT to help remove these blocks. I'm talking to my therapist about it. I'm working with a money coach on it. And I have this Kriya to support me, to help me energetically. And Kundalini yoga, Kriyas, and meditation, they work with Kundalini Shakti. And Kundalini Shakti is your life force energy. And it's the divine feminine energy that we all have. And it's located at the base of your spine. And Kunda means coiled, right? Coiled at the base of your spine. And working with that energy, it cleared a lot of things from my body. I don't know how it works or why these certain asanas work together, but I've experienced so much magic from it where I actually see results. I'm like, okay, I don't know what it is. Working with Kundalini Shakti, it literally clears the trauma from you. We carry a lot of trauma in our spine. And so when you're working and moving your spine and doing these sets of mudras with your hands or breath work and mantras and movements with your body, it literally creates change in your mind where you're not even talking about the problem. Like for a long time, I was really much a talker. I was in talk therapy a lot and we just kept talking about it. And it got to a point where it's like, okay, I know my wounding so much, but how do I move it through my body? And that's where I found EFT. That's where I found EMDR. But then again, for me, like there was still a lot of talking about it, because with EFT, you talk about all the scripting and you just get in the story, you're in the story, you're in the story, you're in the story. It's almost like you become the story until you actually move it out of your body. What I really love about Kundalini Kriya is that you don't need to talk about it. You do the movements, you show up every day, you show up consistently. And anytime that I do Kundalini, you meet your ego, you meet your thoughts. Trust me, when you're in these asanas where you're trying to hold positions for a long time, such as meditation positions, all of that, I am always met with, this is so stupid. I don't want to do this. Is this actually working? Why do I believe in this? And I go through this full spectrum of meeting my ego and thinking like, oh my God, I just want to put my hands down. Like right now I'm doing this meditation called Getting Rid of Your Couldn't. And it's 11 minutes of putting your hands up and crossing your middle finger over it's your middle finger is known as your Saturn and your index fingers are known as your Jupiter. And you're crossing your middle finger over your Jupiter finger and your elbows are towards the side of your body, but the height is at your level. And so you're chanting this mantra and you're saying, and you're holding it up for 11 minutes. 11 minutes is the minimum of doing this meditation of getting rid of your couldn't. I remember the first time we actually did it in yoga training, I had all those thoughts of, oh my God, why am I doing this? Why did I sign up for this? Do I actually believe it works? Can I get data on like why this certain position actually works and will help me get rid of my couldn't? And oh my gosh, this is so hard. I want to put my arms down. I don't want to do 11 minutes. And oh my gosh, I have to do it for 40 days. Like the list goes on. And if you think about it, and if you really do a transcript on your brain dump during the day and really think and look at how positive are your thoughts versus how negative they are, like how often does your ego come out versus how often does your divine thinking come out? Right? I'm pretty sure it's like the greater sign is going to be towards your egoic thinking. And I just remember, just every time I do a Kriya, that's hard for me. And I show up the next day and then I get a little bit better. Then my arms start getting stronger and then I don't need to put down my hands. And then I show myself like, oh, I can do it. I can show up and I can do it. And so when that's the belief that you need, especially when things are hard in life, especially when things are challenging. And one of my own mantras is I can do hard things. I can do anything. And after I do Kundalini Kriyas, I feel expansive as fuck. And I feel like I can tackle on the world. I feel so invincible. And I'm like, yes, I feel like there is a way through every block. And there is if I just show up every day and do the damn thing. And that's the mindset that you need to have as an entrepreneur. You need to have that warrior-like mentality. And it's beautiful because there are so many different tools out there to help you unblock all of your blocks, anything, any limiting beliefs you have, self-imposed limitations, like all of that stuff. And so that was one of the first Kriyas I did. On the 40th day of my sadhana, I quit my job. That was the last day that I was at my job. And then I moved on to another one. I was like, okay, now I need to get all these clients. I was working with some clients before, but it wasn't at the level that I really wanted my business to be. But I had saved enough. And so I thought, okay, well, the savings will be enough. I'm not going to rely on my business to actually feed me or anything like that or put pressure on me. And so the next Kriya that I ended up doing was Subha Kriya. And Subha Kriya is basically invoking the abundance of the universe. And I kid you not, I did that for 40 days and I ended up getting 7 clients. Like a lot of people will do that if they want a cash injection, if they want to evoke abundance in their life. And I highly recommend it. It's so amazing. Granted, it's like a 15-20 minute Kriya, but I mean, it's worth it. You're doing some weird stuff, moving your arms and you're breathing, and you're like, I don't know how this is helping. But anyone that has a money block, I will tell them to do that. I will tell them to do that, and they do it, and they're just like, oh my gosh, it worked. Da, 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 da. And it just shows you, like, I don't know how it works. I don't know why it works, but it does. And that's enough evidence for me. And the fact that I've done it and I've gotten 7 clients, like I think it was in the first 3 months of quitting. And it was interesting because I was so scared about quitting. And I was like, oh, maybe I should quit when I get my bonus and all that stuff. And because I got 7 clients, it actually made up for the bonus that I didn't get. And it was equivalent to the bonus that I would have gotten. And so that just really shows you the magic of Kriyas and that it's this new tool. And if you want to learn more about it, you know where to find me. Okay. So the next topic is pricing. Woo, pricing. And so there are so many different types of perspectives about pricing and everything. And I would say pricing is definitely a journey in itself, because when you have to believe that what you are doing, and I'm talking from a coaching perspective, that who you're coaching, who you're mentoring, that you believe in the work you do. And you believe that your pricing aligns and mirrors the value that you bring to the table. Because if you price yourself too high, you are going to have a problem of energetically holding that price when you are working with clients. You're going to think you're a fraud. Your imposter syndrome is going to amplify and increase. Trust me. And so as much as people are like, well, I deserve, to charge this much. But when you actually do, and you start to feel that imposter syndrome, then that's when you know you're in trouble. And so it's about learning to humbly evaluate your experience and expertise. And sometimes what you might want to do is, sometimes what might happen is you will think, oh, well, I have this amount of experience doing, X in my corporate job. So obviously these skills are transferable and I'm going to charge X amount. Okay. Basically, when you're starting from scratch, it's as if you're an intern. It's as if you're an intern and you have to pay your dues and you have to get used to it. And so I did a lot of free sessions ahead of time just to work on my craft, to work on my skill, to really build that confidence. I did a lot of free coaching. I had a lot of free clients. I really wanted to see if this is a route that I wanted to do. And if I was good at it, if it excited me enough. It was like the dating period before I actually committed and said yes to this life. And once I found out, okay, yes, then I'm going to charge, I think it was less than 1,000. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. I can handle that vibration. I can handle that amount of energy and the money in exchange that I'm asking for. And then after that, once I got more clients, then I increased my prices. And then I started to see, who are the clients that I like working with? What are the types of challenges that give me a lot of energy to work with clients? And what kind of structure and formatting do I want to do? Do I like doing 90 minutes? Do I like doing 50 minutes? Do I like doing 45? Do I like doing an hour? Do I like doing every other week? Do I like doing weekly? And really figuring out and testing that out. And the only way that you're going to understand and know what works for you is if you just test, pivot, and iterate. And I remember when I was part of this like startup tech community in San Francisco, I was always surrounded by so many entrepreneurs. And I noticed my limiting beliefs of not being able to do something because I always wanted to have everything ready before I can actually do it. Right. Thinking that, okay, I need to compound all of my experience before I can actually launch something. I remember someone was talking to me and they said, well, why don't you just do it? Why don't you just do it? You only know if once you actually do it and experiment with it, and we can always change it. And I think, if anything, that has really allowed me to be in the imperfect, and that it's okay, and that it doesn't need to be finalized, and then I can make changes and pivot every single time. Because the truth is, at the end of the day, you are your own boss. And sure, people can tell you all the different strategies that they use, but it's only you that gets to decide what is right for you, what you want to go after, how you want to operate in your business, what are the projects you want to do, because no one can actually tell you what will work for your business. Everyone is different. Everyone is unique. Sure, there's a quote unquote, tips, strategy, and there are so many different variables. Like you just don't know. There's no perfect recipe or way of doing things. And so that's where you really have to have that strong backbone of knowing, okay, this is how much I feel with pricing. This is how much I want to charge, and all of that stuff. And so I think one of the biggest things was for me of holding that high ticket pricing and realizing and believing, oh my gosh, I do add a lot of value, or oh my gosh, I am actually worth charging this much. And I'm not going to lower my prices because there's all of this other free content that I offer, such as listening to my podcast, such as my content online, such as subscribing to my newsletters, my free tapping circles that I do. And so all of those different things. And I learned that too from another coach of, you don't need to lower your prices because there are other free content that people can buy. And when they're ready, they know how to reach you. Right. And a lot of the times when we think about it, money is a priority for your values. Do you believe in the transformation that you are seeking? Do you want that transformation? How badly do you want it? And if it's not a priority for you, then you know what to do. You know where to call me. You know how to contact me when it actually does happen. And so that is my perspective with pricing. Obviously, it's something that you are going to have to play with the numbers, thinking what works for your business. And a lot of people will say, oh, well, think about how much you actually want to make and then go from there. Okay, I've done it both ways of that. But then also for me personally, what energetically works is how much do I feel this program, this coaching is valuable for? What is the value of it? What do I know? What expertise I bring? And then basing that pricing off that, because you can always increase your prices, or you can always create different offerings, diversifying your offerings to meet different people of where they're at. But if you start to charge too high from the beginning, it's going to be really difficult to energetically hold it and not have the imposter syndrome kind of hijack you. So that's just a warning. Okay. And the next topic is wellness and self-care and burnout. Oh my goodness. So after I did my Subha Kriya, I ended up getting so burnt out working with 7 clients. And I think what I might do is probably combine some of the topics that I had. So I also have full-time versus part-time. So I'm going to combine those 2 topics right there. And going from your full-time job and then also doing coaching is part-time. Part-time coaching will always look like the better choice because maybe you're burnt out from your full-time job and you're just looking for an out and you're like, okay, this is a thing. I'm going to go with it. I'm going to do it. Right. And all of a sudden your part-time job becomes your full-time job. And then you start to realize, okay, maybe it's not as cracked up as it is. Maybe all of those coaches online that are advertising digital working are lying. I'm going to be real. You're not going to be making 5-figure months in the first year. And you have to be willing to hold that frequency of not making money, of not having a paycheck for a month, for a couple of months. That is just the journey of being an entrepreneur of variable income. And, for me, I was really burnt out from my job. And so just going into coaching full time just made sense. I was like, I just want it out. I just want it out. I didn't realize I was burnt out until this just became the answer to everything. And I was like, no, the grass is like, this is the thing that's going to save me. I want to do it. I want to do it. And then once I got into it, I was like, whoa, okay. So usually when you're in corporate, you can multitask, right? You're going to be on Zoom meetings. You can Slack, you can do work, you can check emails. Like, I mean, let's be real. No one's really paying attention in meetings. But when you're coaching and when you're doing one-on-one, you have to have active listening. You can't be checking emails. You can't be going on Slack. You can't be checking your phone. You can't be off Zoom. You have to really sit there and listen. And that was the hardest thing of, oh my gosh, like I have to actively listen for an hour, sometimes 90 minutes to someone. And that was the hardest thing for me. And so that took a lot out of me. And sometimes I would be doing back-to-back EFT sessions, and it's called surrogate tapping with EFT. So as you tap on like someone else's story, you are actually energetically working in some semblance of a way that story within you. And so I would just feel so exhausted from tapping all the time and feeling energetically depleted because I would take someone else's energy into my space, and I'm very empathetic. And what I've now realized is, I really have to set energetic boundaries with my clients. And so I knew for myself that I couldn't do back-to-back sessions, that I had to create a buffer time in between sessions. And even with clients, it's what is a sweet spot for me when I do these one-on-one sessions where if we're not actively tapping or doing Kriyas, that we, I have time and space. If we're just doing, a talk coaching session, that I have to have time in between to work with different clients and fill my own cup first before I go back into a session, right? I need to charge my own batteries. And so I remember after working with 7 clients and, sure, it was great. I got money and it was fantastic. And I felt really good. But the problem is I didn't know how to handle and balance, being in this relational service oriented type of industry to all of a sudden having relationships outside of this industry, meaning showing up for my family, showing up for my friends, showing up for my partner. And so it was really hard because, when you're with friends, you want to talk about different things that are going on. Maybe you're going through a certain challenge. And for me, it just felt, oh, wow, I have to listen again. And it made me start to really resent and know, oh, okay, this is coming up for me. I need to talk to people. I need to see what are the self-care boundaries that I can create for myself. I need to really amplify my mental health because I was not well. I truly was not well. And I just remember really feeling depleted. I wanted to quit. It made me think, oh my God, I don't like this. What did I do? I should have tested it out more. And it was a really dark period for me because I thought, oh my gosh, well, how can I call myself a coach or a mentor if I don't even like doing one-on-ones? And the reason why I didn't like doing one-on-ones was because I didn't know how to take care of myself energetically and also physically and mentally. Like I didn't know how to do that. And so it was really this baptism by fire of, oh, okay, girl, you want a lot of clients? Like, here, we got it for you, but can you actually handle the frequency of having that manifestation in all those clients? And I did not know how to do it. And so I would tell my partner all the time, oh my God, like I am not mentally well. I would say that to him all the time. And so I just told him, okay, I need to work on this. And so I ended up finding a therapist. We would only see each other once a month and like all of that stuff. And I just really had to work on it. And then I really had to think about how many clients a day do I want? And that's what really propelled me to this idea. I am not doing 90-minute sessions. Like I remember before when I go back to pricing, like I increased my minutes per session because I didn't feel that I was worthy enough to charge that much. Because I saw all these other coaches doing 90-minute sessions and they were charging like thousands and thousands of dollars. So I thought, well, maybe I need to do that too. Bottom line is I don't do that no more. I don't do 90 minutes. Because for me personally, like I can only handle 75 minutes. So my sweet spot is 60 to 75 minutes only. After that, I just, I can't. But kudos to you if you can, right? And something that you will learn is that the more you actually do it, the more that you get used to it. And so it's like being able to stretch into that thing that you want. I remember my therapist, she told me, you'll get used to it. You'll get used to it. And I remember now that I can hold conversations, I can be very active, and I'm a very good listener, and I'm there and I'm alert. And it's all about how I show up, how I take myself, how much I take care of myself outside of the actual client sessions. And so that is just something to think about if you get into the service-oriented business of, what kind of energetic hygiene practices do you use? And so I like to work with a water element to purify my energies. I do sage, I do Palo Santo, I take a bath. I take time to be alone, be introverted, interiorize my experience. I understand like what are the sensations in my body that tells me I'm working too much. And tell sign is if your clients, if they cancel on you and you're excited about that, then that shows you're burnt out, right? Sure, everyone loves to have like their schedule cleared so they can have more me time, but then really start to notice that. Do you feel excited showing up? So it's just like how you think about for example, if you're at work and you're like, oh my gosh, do you have Sunday scaries? Do you want to show up for your day? Are you excited about your day? Are you excited to connect with this client? Like really ask yourself those questions and see how your body responds to that. Is there a contraction or an expansion? Where do you feel it in your body? Write about it, reflect on it, all of that stuff. Okay. So next topic is collaborations, saying yes and no to people. I think when I first got into wanting to collaborate with people, it was just this fear of, I don't know how to do it alone, so I'm just going to collaborate. And then, granted, a lot of people do collaborations to, expand their visibility into a different market or tap into an audience that's aligned with their niche. And for me, it was really about, I just don't know how to do something, or it's not that I didn't know how to do something. It's just, I was just too afraid to show up by myself and I wanted someone else to experience it with. And so that was the motivation for why I did a lot of collaborations in the very beginning. And, as someone who is your own boss, the difference is if you don't like working with someone, you can have the sovereignty to say, no, I don't want to work with this person again, as opposed to being on a team where you have to continually show up and work with the same person. And that's where you get to have the authority, the autonomy, and to be really strategic and smart about, are these partnerships and collaborations aligned with the vision that I hold? And so even before you start your own business, like, sure, people can say, oh, you can just do it. But I think it's really important to have a structure, a strategy, a vision of why you're doing something. What are the certain priorities and tactics you want to do? Like the priorities, first of all, then the tactics after that. Right. And so you can actually see the lever that you're measuring and how does it work and how does it tie into this whole operating system of you trying to run your business. And so, for me, the impetus was really about, I don't feel confident enough to do it on my own. And so I am going to collaborate with someone. And what I realized for me of, coming from that fear place really didn't allow me to vet people. And so when I would work with people, I would start to realize, oh, our working styles are actually different. And it doesn't make me feel good when I work with this person. And thank God I can be my own boss and be like, okay, well, I tried it. I don't like collaborating with that person, so I'm not going to do it, And also, when you are in discussions with collaborating with someone, really think about what your objectives are and really scope out the expectations ahead of time. Dividing the work, right? And how you're going to promote it, who's going to do what, utilizing each of your strengths and which skill sets you have. And really being mindful of, is it equitable? Is it fair? Is the division of labor fair? Thinking about when you're actually collaborating with someone, how does it feel when you're doing it in real time? Do you have a flow? Do you gel together? Do you jive together? And so, some people might think, oh, collaboration is just collaboration, you just show up, but there's a lot of behind the scenes that you don't understand. And so think about it as it's just like a temporary business partnership, and really thinking about, applying the example of dating of, do I like being with this person? Do our skill sets match? Is there a gap in my skill set that they can expand and go further into the event on? And sometimes also it is, it can be a little bit easier doing events alone, but the key thing about collaboration is that you get to tap into someone else's network also and be visible, and you can cross promote each other's different things. You can also brainstorm, you can have a lot of fun. And so really start to be mindful of, what are the expectations ahead of time, getting on a call, asking for clarity, thinking about, the pricing, the divvying up, how much the tickets are going to be for your event. Do you want to collect cash after the expenses are paid? Like all of that stuff. So there's so many different avenues to go into that, and also really think about, who do you want to collaborate? And I know something that came up for me was, oh my gosh, this person is so popular. Would they want to work with me? Or maybe they wouldn't want to work with me because I don't have a big audience and all that stuff. But really, it's just your fear of thinking you're not good enough. Or it was like my fear of thinking that I wasn't good enough to hang with the cool girls, like those girls. When in actuality, it's okay. That's a belief system that I get to work with, that I get to play with, that I get to explore and say, okay, no, I do deserve a seat at the table and I'm going to approach these people. So always just be open to collaborations, be really mindful of the scope of work, expectations, setting that ahead of time, and understand the division of labor. So, and then also, you don't know what it's going to be like working with someone until you work with someone. You really don't. And then really figuring out, okay, how do you like to work? And trying as many people as possible. It's like the dating period right now. Maybe you don't know the ideal match for you, right? And so that's why you date, you try so many different collaborations to really see, oh, I like that. I didn't like that. Oh yeah, that's what I want. And so just start to really be mindful and take that information on and put it on a list and, reflect on that anytime you go into collaborations. All of this is new. You're going to have that the full archetype mindset of, I am a beginner. I'm trying things out. I'm collecting data for, how I want it to influence me operating my business in the future so I can be most successful according to my own energy, my energetic blueprint, according to what visions I have and desires I have for myself. Okay. Whew. All right. So next lesson is launching. So launching and behind the scenes marketing. What I didn't know getting into coaching was that I was hardly going to do coaching. The strongest skill set you will need of having your business or starting your business is marketing, hands down. Marketing meaning you need to tell people about it, you need to promote about it, you need to get in front of people. And it was a very strange ratio of coaching to marketing and being an operations person, because I said, well, I didn't get into coaching to become a marketer. But if you're by yourself and you're bootstrapping it and you're a solopreneur, you're going to have to get used to creating content. You're going to have to work through your fears of being seen. You're going to have to work through your fears of not doing stuff, letting your fears self-sabotage you into laziness and being in a lull all the time of like non-movement, and really understand that when you're launching a program, there's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes, so much stuff that goes on behind the scenes. So you're creating content, you are creating copy, you are creating content to help people self-identify whether or not the program's right for them. You are talking about it all the time. You're creating all these promotional materials all the time. And you're creating a campaign, a 6-week campaign or more of generating excitement and all the different tactics that you're trying to do and all the different types of copy that you need to do to meet different people of where they are on the customer journey. And so you really have to strengthen your marketing muscles and really understand that, people can market and say, oh, coaches, you make 5-figure months, 10-figure months, or 10K months and all of that stuff. And then you start to realize, oh, there's actually a whole beast behind that. And how many people what's my reach that I need to be in front of how many people so that I can make X amount? Like, what is a successful launch for me? And that's going to vary depending on which part of the cycle you are in your business. Are you just starting out? Are you someone who's a veteran? And typically I was told that it takes 3 to 5 years to be really successful in your business. And so can you withhold doing this without getting any results for 3 to 5 years? Can you? And what I found out with some people is that they'll actually stay in their 9 to 5 until they have enough clients to pay them those 5-figure months, 10K months, and then take the leap. right? Because it's easier to do that when you already have a lot of traction so that you don't put enough pressure onto your business to feed you. And that's the thing, is that the business itself, sure, it was created from you, and but it's not you, right? And so when you think about the example of having a child, right? The child isn't you, it came from you, but it's its own entity, its own living, breathing, energetic being. And really adopting that mindset to your business. And when you think that you can control your business, you start to stunt its growth and prevent it and inhibit it from actually being what it's intended to be in this earth, which is not of you. Okay. Sure, your face may be on it, but it's its own living, breathing entity, right? And this is my belief, you are a conduit for source, what needs to be birthed from you. And so, can you actually energetically let your business be the thing that it needs to be without putting pressure of money onto it? And so, I remember a time when I really thought, oh my gosh, okay, I need this in my business, blah, 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 and like that. And then it's just like that energy comes off when you're trying to do sales, when you're trying to create content, when you are showing up in your client sessions, and you need to really rein it in and check yourself of, okay, what is my why? Okay, this is separate from me. Okay, this is a completely separate entity. And what do I need to do to create more space, create more buffer so that it can unfold and be what it organically, divinely needs to be in this world? Because if I squeeze fear or my ego into it, it can go a completely different direction that isn't pure, that doesn't have integrity. And so really showing up and using this platform and value as a way to be of service. How do you consecrate the things that you do? How do you dedicate it? How do you be devotion into it? How do you be in devotion to something that's much larger than you leaving a corporate job so you can have 10K months and be your own boss, right? There has to be something more beyond those selfish ideas for it to be successful. It's like really about service oriented, heart centered leadership. And so really being mindful of that. And sometimes, when you're doing all these things, we were doing all of the marketing, just, oh my God, I'm like so much in marketing, I'm forgetting why I'm doing this. That's why it's always go back to your why, always go back to your why. But I just wanted to share that because, when you are a solopreneur, you're going to be marketing a lot. You're going to be marketing a lot. You're going to be testing yourself. Oh, can I create this content? Can I share my voice? I feel like I'm always marketing. I feel like I'm always talking about it. And there's someone said this to me before, being an entrepreneur, like always be selling. That's what you need to think about. Always be selling. But really think about, am I sharing from a place of joy, or am I sharing from a place of like, I need to get clients? And I remember when I first would join different networking groups, I would never be there for myself. It was always there to push the momentum of my business. And it came from a very selfish place because, I had my savings, but I also wanted my business to do really well. And so when you go off of that selfish motivation, you don't get as much out of the experience of just like showing up and being there for others. And so I've seen this a lot with other women too, where they will go to women's circles and they're not going to be there to participate themselves. It's more of, I want to see what this person's doing. And I've done that before too. Like I remember I went to this breathwork event even before I like started coaching. I was on the precipice of doing my coaching and really putting it out there before I launched it publicly. And the whole time I just wasn't present with the actual experience because I was focusing on, oh, so how do they start the session? How do they do this? How do they transition? Da, 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 da. So it's like taking a yoga class, but you're not there for the actual yoga and experience. You're only there to see the type of asanas they do and how do they open a class. And it really diminishes the value of being there, honestly. And, I remember I had this rude awakening moment from two friends of mine who are entrepreneurs. They're very successful. And, they both said to me, you got to go there thinking about how much value you can actually bring before you actually receive. Be selfless. Be selfless. And that changed it for me. And so now when I go to events, when I go to events that I really want to go to and stuff that really piques my interest that I enjoy, and not for the game of, okay, so if I go, I'm going to see if I can get clients. No, it's kind of like going on a date, and the motivation is to have them be or to have them commit to you. Why don't you just go to explore this person's company, have a nice conversation, and have a good time? And that's it. And so that's what I do. And so really be mindful of the selfish reasons of why you're doing something versus the pureness, and really going back to your why, which is what I shared about before. Okay. Ooh, I feel like I want to wrap this up. And so I'm thinking, what is the other? What are one of the last two topics that I want to talk about? Because I have 12 things on here. I think I'm going to talk about pivoting. Yeah, I'm going to talk about pivoting. So this ties into your business being a separate entity from you. And, if you are the face of your business, you are going to change. And so when I initially started coaching, mentorship, my business name was Lisa May Coaching. And my podcast name was Heartstream Musings. And as I was exposed to Tantra and, following that path even further, I realized that what I was teaching on, what I was coaching on, just wasn't aligned to my heart, the direction I wanted to go in. And for me, it's like I didn't get into this business of becoming my own boss and being my own, being on my own team if I wasn't excited about it. The difference is I have the sovereignty to say no to things, right? I'm not talking about quitting every time you don't like something, because that's not going to do you any good, but really aligning to your heart and your truth. Like everything that I do is always aligned to my truth, everything. And if it's not aligned to my truth, then I shouldn't be doing it. And that's where you have to get really rigorously honest with yourself. And so, really thinking about what is lighting up my heart right now? What makes me excited? What do I want to express right now? What I want to share? And I was very afraid to go into the realm of divine feminine coaching, sacred feminine coaching, because one, I shared about it before, like I just had this resistance towards it. I didn't like how everyone was in it. I didn't feel it. I was like, oh my God, I'm like totally jumping on the bandwagon. And I didn't do it because it was popular. I did it because it was alive and real and inside that just ignited my inner fire, and it was something that I really felt that I was called to do. Like I wanted to help women. I want to help women who are on the sacred feminine journey, connecting to their feminine essence. I want to help women dive more into feminine spirituality. I want women to feel that balance between their masculine and feminine energies. I want women to understand how to do shadow work, working with different goddesses, doing different archetypes, understanding the recessed parts of themselves, of how they identify with the masculine, the feminine. I want women to really feel connected to a power greater than themselves and know it as the feminine force, as the feminine divine force. And diving more into this Tantra practice, I realized that Kundalini Shakti was calling me for a very long time. And that's what drove me into Kundalini Kriyas and really devoting myself to how do I get to know her? How do I get to work with Shakti in a way of being able to help with my clients with different things that they are feeling challenges with. And I couldn't deny that part of myself any longer, regardless of those superficial thoughts of how it would seem to other people. Because at the end of the day, I can only align to my truth, and that is my truth. And anyone that has an opinion about it, I have to just dust it off, right? Because so many people are going to have opinions about it. That's the thing they have to understand in this business, is that not everyone's going to like what you do. And if they don't, then they're not for you. And you have to be really strong and aligned to that truth. And so that's why I have loved so much working with the Wild Woman archetype, is because none of this makes sense, right? There's a lot of people that quit. There's a lot of people that quit all the time, and I don't have, emotional support from my parents. And so it's like, how do you believe in this new paradigm for yourself and paving and carving out this path, knowing that other people aren't going to accept it and tell you all of their own limiting beliefs and project it onto you. But the thing is, you don't have to take it as if it's your own. And so as you start to pivot, sometimes you have to really honor the truth that is there. And sometimes there may be points in your business where you're like, oh, this just doesn't feel good as much. And so really honor that period of transition, of exploring, of connecting to your inner realms and understanding and taking time to be in that void for something new to be birthed. Because anytime, and this is working with Kali, anytime that there is creation, there also has to be a death of something. In order to create space, in order to create space, something has to be let go. Something has to be released, because you can't create two things at the same time, right? You have to think about what isn't working. So something has to die. It's almost like synonymous, that one can't exist without the other. And so really thinking about that and really connecting and checking with yourself of, okay, what is the spark that I feel, especially if you're on the precipice of wanting to evolve your business? What is the spark that I feel? What is this new direction that I want? And majority of the time, it's just going to be those limiting beliefs that other people are projecting onto you, where you project onto yourself of, oh, people don't see me as this way. So, I can't explain it as good as other people. And just stop. Just stop. And another thing I will give as a tip is, don't follow people in your industry, because sometimes you can get into the comparison trap and think, oh my God, they're doing amazing things and there's not enough for everybody. But it's like, what does my friend say? She was like, love doesn't divide, it multiplies. And so remembering, like, there is enough for everybody to go around, and not everyone's going to be for everybody. And so it's good that people have options, and that you're going to align yourself to the people that you want to attract, thinking about soul aligned clients and really getting crystal clear and getting crystallized vision on what that is, so that you can connect to the people that light you up, right? Because your frequency matches their frequency. And so I feel that I am complete. Like, I've just been like, but I have so much more to say. I was like, no, but I feel energetically tired. And thank you for joining me on this journey. Thank you for supporting me, whether it's you listening to my podcast, whether it's you sharing one of my episodes, whether it's you following me on Instagram, signing up for my newsletter, attending any of my free events, or working with me one-on-one. It has been a wonderful journey so far, and I really love what I do. I love helping women. I love direction that I'm going in. And, really my why for this, in the vein of why I do this, is because I want to help women in this lifetime. And I want to help them really tune into their divine selves, right? Because we all are, and help them unblock from things that are preventing them from seeing that. So thank you so much.